We finally get to see the UFC Fight Night card where we get to see Anthony Hernandez and Michel Pereira go at it. I am so excited for that fight. And honestly, the majority of the rest of the card today, we're going to be breaking down the next UFC Fight Night card with timestamps if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Guys, we're going to be talking about all of the fights as deep as we could possibly go. We're going to take a look at betting odds, and as far as I'm aware right now, there are lines for every fight that we're talking about. Usually that's up for debate because I typically record this on the Wednesday or Thursday before you guys are actually seeing it the Saturday night when I schedule it to just go live after the UFC card. But regardless, guys, timestamps are here if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Let's get straight into it with the early prelim opener, and that being Alice Ardelean versus Melissa Martinez. Now, when I was talking about being extremely excited for the majority of fights on this card, unfortunately, this was not necessarily one of them. So we finally saw Alice Ardelean into the UFC when she took the short notice fight against Shauna Bannon. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it was about a week's notice. I don't think it was much more than that. But regardless, in this fight, honestly, it was a split decision. She almost won. If she would have gotten the decision, I wouldn't have necessarily complained about it, where she looked good in the first round with the takedowns, but then she just almost kept getting caught in submissions, and then she ended up just gassing out. So I think we need to see a little bit more of Alice Ardelean in the UFC because she does seem like she's, I don't want to say good, and I don't want to be disrespectful, right? But to dive into her style a little bit, she's a sloppy but well-rounded fighter at the same time. She's okay in the clinch. She likes to grab you, take you down. She'll punch you from anywhere. She does lack technique. She kind of fights like she is a bar girl. Melissa Martinez, though, isn't necessarily at the top of the division either because she is just a busy, and for the division, she is a very powerful striker, and she has some sneaky takedowns in her arsenal, but that's pretty well about it for Melissa Martinez. We haven't seen her in 2 years against Elise Reed. I saw the name Melissa Martinez, like, I forgot about that chick, because I remember, like, some people kind of simping over her a little bit, right? But anyways, she ended up losing to Elise Reed, and we haven't seen her. I have no clue why she's been off for 2 years, but that's always something to take into consideration when you're breaking down a fight, right? Melissa Martinez could come in with ring rust. I know, like, there's so many things that you could be off for, right? Whether it's an injury, whether Melissa Martinez wanted to have kids, something along those lines. At least we've recently seen Alice Ardelean just over a month ago or about 2 months ago, and she, I don't want to say had a good performance, but I don't know, man. She took on a better opponent than Melissa Martinez, so I'll give her that. And for that reason, with the layoff, with the, I'm going to cut her some slack with the cardio there. I'm going to have a slight lean towards Alice Ardelean for this fight. Again, not too confident about it, and I don't care who wins this fight at all, guys, to be honest with you. Sometimes, if you guys are new to the channel, sometimes I have something to say about the fights. Like, I really like Alice Ardelean or whatever, to be honest. I don't really care, but let's take a look at what OddsJam is saying over here, and you can see that Alice Ardelean is a slight underdog. I mean, I'm not upset about that. Melissa Martinez is definitely the better striker, but I don't know. Not really looking too forward to that fight. We're not really open up the card with a banger here, but regardless, there's some good fights on the card. But now, guys, let's continue on to the next fight. A little bit kind of going to the bottom level of the division a little bit. We have Joselyne Edwards taking on Tamires Vidal. I had a little bit higher hopes for Tamires Vidal, but I'm officially off the train. Not that I necessarily was on a train at all. I just thought that Tamires Vidal had some potential, and now I just flat out don't. I might as well start with Tamires Vidal. She comes forward, wants to take you down. She comes forward a little bit wild, and that could work against her because at times she does get caught in that scenario. But when she is on the ground, she does get decently technical. That's really pretty much like where she shines, nowhere really else. And kind of the opposite for Joselyne Edwards, because she's a kickboxer who excels at range. She is just okay at what she does, and that being like the technical kickboxing and keeping opponents at bay, but she does seem to be improving a little bit here and there. She also doesn't have an issue making fights dirty, and her weakness is she can be taken down as well. So that's a strength for Tamires Vidal, but even then, like, both girls are coming off of, okay, it wasn't a good performance, okay, against Aylin Perez. This wasn't a good performance, but I did think she won this fight. It's just, I haven't been impressed by either girl. Even like Nora Cornell, it was just sloppy. They couldn't finish each other. Tamires Vidal, of course, had the Montserrat Rendon fight where she just looked sloppy, horrible. And then the Melissa Gatto fight where she got absolutely 100% obliterated. And I know that they've had wins, but I mean, what's there to say? Like, this is kind of getting towards the bottom of the division, in my opinion. I don't want to pick Tamires Vidal again because I'm thinking like, okay, Tamires Vidal, at least she comes forward. She might be able to take her down. Joselyne Edwards might like welcome a little bit of the brawl. But at least every once in a while when we see Joselyne Edwards, we see her improving a little bit. Tamires Vidal just had like 2 horrible performances in a row. Horrible. And at least I think that Joselyne Edwards won her last fight. This is, again, going to be a very low confidence pick, but I am going to pick Joselyne Edwards to win the fight here. And I'd like to see her win, to be honest with you. At least like she's showing that she really, really has dreams within the sport, right? She, like I said, she comes in and she sees improvement here and there. And you can see Joselyne Edwards sitting at about a -203 favorite. That's understandable. I completely get why people are 100% off the Tamires Vidal train at this point. It's going to be a really, 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 really fun fight. Can't wait, but we move on to some good fights. Now, guys, this fight, I cannot wait to see. Okay, we have Brad Katona versus Gene Matsumoto. I know people aren't necessarily on the Brad Katona train because, I don't know, like, am I wrong in this? Some people talk about Brad Katona like he's boring. I personally don't find him boring. I really, really enjoy his work. He's a very fun guy to fight, and I feel like it kind of came about towards the Garrett Armfield decision. I enjoyed that, but even then, like, even his last performance, man. What's interesting about this fight is both guys are coming off of a good performance that was, like, I mean, not flawless. Brad Katona had a flawless performance, but Gene Matsumoto really, really showed what he's made of and why he's worth all of the hype, because I wasn't on the Gene Matsumoto train. Not that I was, like, hating on him or anything, or I didn't think that he had capability. I just wasn't really paying attention to this guy like he could be a serious contender. And then he had the performance against Dan Argueta, who I also think is a pretty good fighter. I am so hyped to watch both these fights, again, because of the way that they're coming off of. So you have Brad Katona, who is a very, very tough kickboxer, a lot of heart, he'll never give up, and he does have an underrated ground game. He's coming off of the performance against Jesse Butler that was just absolutely flawless, but the problem is, unlike we talking about Dan Argueta, I don't think highly of Jesse Butler, but on the feet, on the ground, he looked insanely, insanely dominant. You have Gene Matsumoto, who is a South American Muay Thai champion. He is an excellent striker. Man, like, I've loved what I've watched from this guy so far. He does not stop pursuing the entire fight. He is a very accurate striker, always throwing something different. And I always talk about guys like, I love when fighters start throwing different attacks to the body and the combinations. I think that fighters in like the modern era have kind of gotten away from that. So I think that's something important to note when fighters actually do that. But he does a good job really overwhelming people with this. So like, you never know where he's going to attack you. He has amazing cardio, and he can both deal with and apply fantastic pressure. But it doesn't end there, because Gene Matsumoto's defense is on point as well. His hands are always up, which is so nice to see. We just saw this on the Contender Series, and it's crazy that stuff like this stands out, right? If he's taken down, he has excellent, excellent defense. So he's coming off this performance, like I said, against Dan Argueta. The first round of this fight, and he kept up this through the entire fight. The first round was some of the most high-level and demanding cardio grappling I have seen in a little while. Like, both guys had their moments. Like, Gene Matsumoto really showed what he was made of. And I know I might be glazing just a little bit too much, but it was his last performance where I was like, okay, we got to pay attention to this guy, to be honest with you. In saying this, guys, I do think that Brad Katona is a very good fighter, a very underappreciated fighter, but I cannot go against Gene Matsumoto from what I've seen right now. I think this is going to be a great fight. I think this is a great test for Gene Matsumoto, and I do think that he is going to pass this test. I think he has more tools in his kit in order to win this fight. And honestly, excuse me, guys. Honestly, I do like both guys, but I'm rolling with Gene Matsumoto here. I would like to see what he can do up in the division, so I'm going to be cheering for him a little bit. And you can see that Gene Matsumoto is sitting at a -255 favorite. I get it. But you never know. Like, he's only had like one fight in the UFC so far. Is that right in saying that? Am I remembering that correctly? Because I've been watching this guy in the LFA too. Okay, yeah. So after the Contender Series, he had one fight. Sometimes I get it mixed up again. Like, if you guys follow the channel, I'm a big fan of the LFA, so I've been watching this guy for a little bit, right? But you never know once these guys hit the UFC, right? You never know. But it's a very, very exciting fight. Cannot wait to watch that one. But the excitement does not stop there, everybody, because we have an absolute banger coming up next. Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed. I cannot wait to watch this fight. But to be honest with you, I think this is the last fight on the card that I'm not interested in, okay? Jessica Penne, I don't feel like we've seen him forever. Okay, well, almost 2 years ago. Wow, what's she doing? 41 years old, almost 42 years old? Crazy. Jessica Penne. Well-rounded fighter, doesn't necessarily excel at anything, but she is okay in like whatever area that she decides to fight in. She's very experienced for what that's worth, depending on how you look at the opponent level over there. She's fought some okay opponents, like Tabitha Ritchie's an okay win. I like Emily Ducote. Karolina Kowalkiewicz 3 years ago was a better fighter than she was now. Lupita Godinez is a nice win, but even then there's a split decision. Before that, then, you get into, again, you'd have to take a little bit of a deep dive into her record to see how you feel about it, but she's taking on Elise Reed. 7-4, you can see by her win-loss. She is a very, very inconsistent fighter because she does have good power for the division. She's a decent striker for the division. She has good cardio. She has good heart, but sometimes she doesn't show any of that. Sometimes she shows up and it's like, what is Elise Reed doing in the UFC? And other times you're like, okay, you know what? She has a little bit of potential. I don't know what to think about this fight, guys. I'm going to lean towards the side of Elise Reed because Jessica Penne has been off for so long. She's almost 42 years old. But then again, like, it wouldn't shock me if Jessica Penne ended up getting the win here. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I'm going to pick Elise Reed. Fairly low confidence picking that. I'm interested to see what the odds are, okay? Let's take a look. Elise Reed is sitting at a -158 favorite for the average odds. Understandable. I don't know why we would be really picking Jessica Penne and what to be a close fight. I think that if this was like 5 years ago or something, then we could look into picking Jessica Penne, but I don't know why she's off. I don't care why she's off. I don't care about this fight. Let's continue on. Now, guys, let's continue on over to the next fight, that being Robelis Despaigne taking on Austen Lane. Robelis coming back after his first official fraud check against Waldo Cortez Acosta just 4 months ago. He is a large, powerful man who we just recently learned all he has is one blitz at the beginning of the fight. Other than that, he is completely useless. And like I just said, I'll start with this because he looked like he was just this big, powerful guy, right? Finishing people here and there. But again, take a look at those fighter records, right? He comes into the UFC, knocks out Josh Parisian just really, really quickly. But then he fights Waldo Cortez Acosta, which in my opinion isn't necessarily like even a contender at heavyweight. This was a complete fraud check. Like I said, all he has is a blitz at the beginning of the fight. Other than that, he's completely, completely useless. In saying that though, he is a 6'7", huge, huge, heavy man with serious power. So he's very capable of winning any fight. Austen Lane, on the other hand, is a former NFL player. He's very athletic. He's very big. He comes forward with the intent to take you down, ground and pound you until you are unconscious. But in saying that, his striking is also not that great. He's coming off of a very interesting performance against Johanna Diniz, where he looked really, really dominant in the first round. He was using his ground and pound really nicely, but I don't know if he ended up gassing out or I don't know if he ended up getting hurt. I personally couldn't tell. If you guys can shed some light on that in the comments, and I don't know if he ever opened up about that, but it looked like it could have been either. Regardless, he ended up getting finished in that fight, and he hasn't had a win since 2 years ago in the Contender Series. He had a little bit of a rough go in the UFC because, of course, he had the quick fight against Justin Tafa, the knockout to Justin Tafa, and then the Johanna Diniz KO. Okay. This could go either way because, again, Robelis is huge. Robelis could improve. I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to rely on his heavy hands, and he could absolutely clip Austen Lane. Austen Lane has been knocked out. He could get knocked out again. If he doesn't get knocked out, I see Austen Lane taking down those giant legs and then pounding him to death, and Robelis won't get up. So my official prediction is going to be Austen Lane, but it's extremely low confidence for that reason. Again, Robelis can catch you and put you to sleep. Austen Lane has been put to sleep. I am going to pick Austen Lane, though. He should be the better fighter, and for that reason, I'm going to cheer for him as well. I hope Austen Lane gets the win because, again, I like the actual athletic fighter who comes in really working on his craft, right? Robelis, we've seen, doesn't necessarily, I don't know if he underestimated people or didn't care too much, but I want Austen Lane to get the win over here, and you could, okay. All right. Hang on. Austen Lane's a big underdog. I don't know how you can put Robelis Despaigne at a -384 underdog, or excuse me, favorite, after that pitiful performance he just had. Absolutely not. Austen Lane is for sure an underdog opportunity, but my money is staying far away from this fight personally. Am I crazy? Now, guys, let's continue on over to the next fight. We have Darren Elkins taking on Daniel Pineda in two fighters that I feel like if they were fighting the vast majority of the roster in the division, I would probably bet against them. But because these two particular fighters are being matched up with each other, I actually don't mind this fight at all, okay? So you have Darren the Damage Elkins. It's very important to note he is 40 years old at this point in his career. He is out of his prime. I am shocked to see that he ended up getting his last win over TJ Brown. I didn't expect that to take place, but it showed that he definitely has the dog in him still. So Darren Elkins, very tough, high-pressure fighter who looks to make things dirty and looks to finish you. In his back pocket, he does have some wrestling, but the majority of his game plan is, I want to damage you as the damage Darren Elkins. Daniel Pineda is a good wrestler with dangerous but non-technical punches. He comes out of the gate just trying to absolutely annihilate his opponents. If he doesn't knock you out in a couple minutes, though, he will gas out. Again, this is a tough fight to pick. It's an exciting fight because you have two guys who are going to come in and probably swing. And I would pick against both of these guys for the majority of the division. That's why it's a fun fight. I don't want to pick Daniel Pineda, man. Darren Elkins is so past his prime, it's not even funny. At least Daniel Pineda has been like normally inconsistent and not winning, you know? Darren Elkins just has looked worse and worse over the years, man. I don't know. Daniel Pineda, if he comes out grappling, I could see him getting some success. But what if he gasses out? What if he gasses out? Are you seriously going to gas out and lose a gas tank war to a 40-year-old man? I don't know, man. I don't know. Damn, this is a tough fight to pick. I can't pick Darren Elkins. I can't. I can't. I was surprised to see him win his last fight. He just doesn't look like the Darren Elkins of old, man. I'm going to pick Daniel Pineda. But again, a very low confidence pick, okay? Daniel Pineda is going to be the pick. I don't care who wins the fight, to be honest with you. And you can see that Daniel Pineda is sitting at a small favorite over there. Those odds make sense to me. They're very, very close, and it's a wild fight. That's going to be a fun one. Now, guys, let me pause on this just for a second. If you don't want to hear me yap, skip like a minute or two. But anyways, as you guys know, I talk a lot about betting on this channel. If you guys are interested in seeing exactly where I'm putting my money where my mouth is when it comes to talking about these fighters that I'm betting on, if you want to either see that, support the channel, or combine my fight knowledge with your own research, then you can check out the channel membership. It is in the pinned comment, link down below, link description down below, or right next to the subscribe button. It is extremely cheap compared to other channels. Every single Thursday or Friday before the events, I will be posting not only a members video, but a community post and exactly what I am doing with my own money. If you're looking to support me, if you're looking to combine my fight knowledge with your own research, or just am curious to see what I'm betting on, you guys can check that out. Also, this tool that we've been using, OddsJam, is fantastic for bettors who have multiple sportsbooks. They're so early and you can see where the best odds are. Saves you a lot of time. If you guys want to check out OddsJam, my link in the pinned comment description down below with using code Clenbat. If you want to sign up to OddsJam, you can get a discount over there. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Let's move on to the main card. Now, guys, let's move on over to the next fight, and this is another very, very, very interesting and exciting fight. We have Brady Hiestand taking on Jake Hadley. Brady Hiestand is a wrestler with very good cardio, but in my opinion, he does have a little bit of subpar striking. He has a lot of heart, and he will weaponize the pace and relentless takedowns that he uses. He is also very good at attacking his opponents with submissions. Jake Hadley, on the other hand, there's not a ton to break down. He's a pretty well-rounded fighter. He's very technical. He can do it all. They're both good at what they do, man. They're both very, very good. Brady Hiestand, though, he has been coming off of a few good performances against Garcia, Donna, and Garrett Armfield, which is even a very high-level performance in my opinion. But Jake Hadley, he has had 2 losses in his last 3, but they are 2 quality opponents in my opinion, and both of them were good performances, especially against Cody Durden. I thought that was an incredible fight. And Charles Johnson, he had a pretty good performance as well, too. It's just Charles was hitting him more often, and then he had the subpar performance against Callan Logren. Now, I could see this bout kind of like this is going to be a tough fight for both guys, to be honest with you. I'm interested to see if they go to the ground. I want to see the scrambles between them. I'm going to lean towards Brady Hiestand for this matchup. Just been a little bit more impressed with him as of lately. Jake Hadley is a good fighter. He certainly has potential. But I'm going to lean towards Brady Hiestand. And I honestly would like to see Jake Hadley win the fight because he needs another win. And I enjoy watching him perform. Let's take a look at what OddsJam is saying over here. You have Jake Hadley sitting at an underdog at plus 125. So it's very, very close, which is, again, understandable. It's what makes the card best, right? I'm excited to watch this fight, man. Very, very excited. All right, guys, let's move on to the next fight. I am super, super excited for this matchup. We have Sumudaerji taking on Charles Johnson. If you guys have been following the channel, you might know I'm a pretty big fan of watching Charles Johnson fight. This dude always brings it. He is extremely, extremely exciting. So you have Sumudaerji, who is also a pretty exciting fighter, to be honest with you. He's a fast, accurate striker. He has really good movement, very good volume, and pretty good cardio as well. The only issue is he can be taken down, and at times he can struggle with pressure. He's coming off of 2 pretty rough losses where, I mean, it wasn't like the Tim Elliott fight, for example. It was an okay performance. He did a good job with his range at the beginning of the fight, but he ended up falling over to Tim Elliott's pressure. Tim Elliott can beat anybody, though, to be honest with you guys. So Sumudaerji is in a little bit of a must-win situation, in my opinion. So Charles Johnson, though, oh boy, after some really, really rough performances by Charles Johnson, right? He came back, got the win against Azak Maxim and Jake Hadley. 2 really good performances, really good fights, in my opinion, okay? But then he beat Joshua Van. This is when I was like, okay, Charles Johnson. I mean, I was always thinking that Charles Johnson was the real deal. And I was saying this, by the way, that he definitely has potential to beat Joshua Van, okay? The fight was at elevation against Joshua Van, and both of them took a round off of each other. It was such a beautiful technical battle to watch, and I think that Charles Johnson actually is still getting better, in my opinion. He ended up winning the first round. He lost the second round. I thought that was super clear, and when the momentum was swinging against him in the third and Joshua Van was really turning it up like we know Joshua Van to do, he came out looking for the kill, and he got it. Charles Johnson has a lot of momentum on his side. And not actually, guys, I know I was just glazing Charles Johnson a little bit, but I think that he's still improving. I still think that he has so much potential in the division. I think he's a very underappreciated fighter, to be honest with you. Sumudaerji himself is a really good striker. This probably will stay on the feet, but I do think that Charles Johnson is going to get the better of Sumudaerji. I think he's going to be faster. I think he's just going to win those technical exchanges more often. I don't think it's going to be like a Charles Johnson's going to kill him type performance, but there even is finish potential on the side of Charles Johnson. I just think that he is he's really good, man. Did I even break him down? I don't think I did. I'll say really quickly, stand-up fighter, great speed. His only big issue is he suffers against high pressure wrestlers, and something else that I do like is he really does listen to his corner. So Charles Johnson, man, glazing a little bit. I'm ready for the comments, but I am picking him to win this fight. I like Charles Johnson a lot. I love watching him fight, and if you guys are new to the channel, I don't pick with my bias. There's a lot of times where I'm like, man, I think this dude's going to get killed, but I'm really, really hoping for him. Just like Alex Morono. I know that we've seen that fight now, but I'm recording this before the UFC Fight Night card. Like, Alex Morono's the only one off the top of my head where I was like, I don't even know if he's going to win. He kind of sucks now, but I'm really, really hoping that he takes the win. Things like that. So just in case you're new to the channel, I don't pick with my heart over here. Let's take a look at what the odds have to say over here. Charles Johnson sitting at about a minus 209 favorite. That makes sense to me. That makes sense, and hopefully bounces around a little bit because Charles Johnson is a guy that I'm definitely considering betting on myself. It's going to be a really good fight, really good card. I'm excited, but the fights don't stop there. We have another banger, that being in the featured. Nope, this is not. Is it the feature bout? Yes, it is the feature bout. We have Matheus Nicolau versus Almabayev. Guys, this is a fantastic fight. I will say, though, speaking of Matheus Nicolau, I was one of the MMA fans who was perhaps overhyping Matheus Nicolau's abilities. Actually, you know what? That's not true. I think he has all the abilities and the technique necessary to compete at the top of the division, but maybe he lost that dog. Maybe he doesn't have the best chin. The problem is he a top 5 fighter? Is he actually? I don't know. And I was one of those guys really claiming like, okay, man, yeah, he lost against Brandon Royval, but Alex Perez, man, like I was very confident Matheus Nicolau to win. I bet on Matheus Nicolau to win, but Alex Perez, of course, ended up starching Matheus Nicolau. Matheus Nicolau, and there's not a ton to break down with him. He's an extremely technical fighter, both on the feet and on the ground. He applies that same work no matter where he goes. He's very, very good at what he does. But he's taken on Almabayev, who is a well-rounded fighter with decent striking, incredible takedowns, control, and ground and pound. And so far, he's done nothing but live up to the hype. I had questions when he first came into the UFC, but he seems to have answered them, and he seems like he is officially the real deal. I am going to be picking Almabayev to win. Now, what's interesting to me is because Almabayev, he does his work a lot with just grinding you out, using the ground and pound. He does have submissions in his arsenal, but perhaps that will let Matheus Nicolau really showcase his set of skills, in which he, again, definitely possesses. I don't know. Matheus Nicolau has been a little bit inactive. Almabayev, every single time we see him, I've been even more impressed with him, man. Like, he seems like he is the real deal for the division. I'm convinced of him personally. I'm going to pick Almabayev to get the win here. And honestly, I hope he wins the fight. I like watching him fight. He's very, very exciting in my opinion. So let's take a look at Odds Jam. Almabayev is a slight favorite over here. I'm not falling for it on Matheus Nicolau, not even underdog opportunity over here. But again, he does have the capabilities of winning this fight. I still think that you shouldn't completely count out Matheus Nicolau. It's a great fight. Can't wait to watch it. Now, guys, let's move on to the co-main event. We have a Rob Font taking on Kyler Phillips. I feel bad for Ron Font, man, because I really like Rob Font, okay? He's had one win in his last five, but he has taken on some really insane competition. Like, he fought against Aldo, Cheeto, Yanez, Sanhagen, Figueiredo. Like, this dude has been put through the ringer. So, Rob Font is a little bit better than his record shows, in my opinion. He's also aging, and that's not good for the bantamweight division. Rob Font is a tough and technical striker who does a good job with his boxing range, his volume. When he has the reach, he uses it very well. The only thing that Rob Font really lacks is power, and he can be taken down. Kyler Phillips, on the other hand, has been really kind of on a low-key win streak in the division. He's put together 3 really, really nice wins against good opponents, in my opinion, too. He's a well-rounded fighter. He's a guy who is just always on the move. He's a good striker. He has a variety of different attacks, and he is absolutely no joke on the ground either. He is a very, very good fighter. With his striking, he is insanely explosive, and especially with his movement, too, he's equally as explosive, like, coming in to strike. Like, the dude is really, really scary in the division. I think he's being very underrated right now. You know what? This is one of those fights where, like, you can never count out Rob Font, okay? Because he can hang with the best of the division. Like, even against Davis and Figueiredo, like, that was a really, really close fight. He ended up getting the loss there, but he did have his moments in that fight. Like, Rob Font can hang, like I said, with the top of the division. Kyler Phillips, though, is the younger guy. He's in his prime. I don't know. I could see him kind of like dancing around Rob Font, man. I can see that, but Rob Font is pretty accurate with the shots. I don't know. Like, this one might be the upset of the card, but I still am going to pick Kyler Phillips in this fight. He has all the momentum. He's in his prime. He has all the potential in the world, and I'm going to pick him to win. But guys, I am going to cheer with all my heart that Rob Font gets it done, man. I'm a fan of Rob Font. I really, really like him as a guy. I like watching him fight. Rob Font, I miss when he was a little bit younger, man, and still getting those hype performances, okay? So you can see that Odds Jam is agreeing with me on this. Kyler Phillips sitting at a -256 favorite. Again, odds that make sense. I don't really see anywhere in the odds except like maybe the Robelis Despaigne fight where something's like really sticking out. Like, okay, maybe that's not that's not the case, you know? But anyways, it's going to be a great fight again on a great card. And guys, let's continue on over to the main event. I was so disappointed when this fight got called off the first time because we have Michel Pereira versus Anthony Hernandez. 2 contenders fighting each other that could very well be the future of the middleweight division. Michel Pereira, after a difficult up and down career, he really seems to have found his stride in the middleweight division because he has been destroying people as of late and against good competition, in my opinion, as well. Like, the competition could be better, but like, the dude has been looking so cool. Like, there's not a ton to break down about Michel Pereira. He's a powerful and flashy striker, and he has a ground game to back it up. We have seen him have cardio issues in the past, but I mean, have we really seen the chance for him to be able to say that he improved on that cardio? That's something to keep in mind, though. So Anthony Hernandez, on the other hand, is a very tough, high-pressure, high-cardio grappler who wants to just break you down, beat you up, find a submission. It's one of those, like, in my opinion, it's a classic striker versus grappler matchup. But to be honest with you, like, Anthony Hernandez, he answered some questions that I had against Roman Kopylov, because if you guys have been following the channel, you know I personally hold Roman Kopylov in, like, very, very high regards, because he was able to fight through a really tough striking that Kopylov had for him, but just after the relentless takedown attempts, he finally got to the ground and finished the fight right away. Like, I'm convinced of both of these guys, and I think this is going to be a fantastic fight. If Michel Pereira does not finish him right away, I think that Anthony Hernandez, over the course of 5 rounds, is going to make Michel Pereira suffer. But Michel Pereira has been looking like it's just an absolute steamroller coming through these fights and just knocking people out. But like, if Anthony Hernandez was dealing with the power of Roman Kopylov and the technique of Roman Kopylov, I know it's a different kind of level of explosiveness. But I don't know, man. I'm convinced to both guys. I think they're really good. Both of them in their prime. Both of them on giant win streaks. Like, I am so excited for this fight. I'm going to pick Anthony Hernandez to get the win here. I think that he has more tools to win, and as the fight goes on, I think the fight favors him a little bit more. But I mean, like, maybe Michel Pereira come out and shock the world again, find a knockout. I cannot wait to watch this fight. I like both guys equally. They're both really fun to watch, so I'm not really leaning towards one side. Let's take a look at what Odds Jam is saying. You can see that Anthony Hernandez is a slight favorite. That makes sense. I was thinking, like, you know what? The odds make sense. The odds make sense. I don't think it should even be closer to a pick 'em. I'm interested to see what you guys are hearing about this fight, man, because it's a really, really good card. Like, we have a few bumps to get over with the early prelims, and then we move on to like banger after banger after banger, and the card only gets better, man. I'm so excited to watch this fight. Let me know what you think about all of the fights down below. Thank you so much for being here and watching. If you want to keep watching the channel, check out this video on screen. YouTube thinks you like this video the best. I would love to have you guys over there. Take care, everybody.